Well, the road to tyranny is not paved with the footsteps of villains alone. It's smoothed and widened by the well-meaning, by the hopeful, by those who, through some twist of history, some whisper of propaganda, become the unwitting accomplices of their own oppression. Let's take Germany, for instance, a nation that's battered. It was humiliated, economically crippled after the First World War. Its people, intelligent, cultured, deeply wounded. Well, Germany wanted nothing more than dignity, prosperity, and security. And so when a charismatic leader arrived, promising revival, promising strength, promising unity, he promised to make, literally, quote, Germany great again. Yep. He promised to make Germany great again. And they listened, not because they were cruel, but because they believed in something better. They saw a man who spoke their grievances, who promised to shield them from the chaos of modernity, who swore that the enemy was not within, but without. And isn't that a comforting thought? The one that's suffering isn't one's own doing, but the result of an external force, be it a group or a race or a set of ideals that must be eliminated for the good of people. You know, it never begins with atrocities, does it? It always begins with small concessions. A newspaper is shut down because it spreads misinformation. A professor is dismissed because he has weakened the moral fabric of society. A neighbor is arrested because, well, he was always a bit suspicious, wasn't he? The well-meaning shrug, well, they tell themselves that these are necessary adjustments, temporary measures for the greater good. They believe it's their duty, their responsibility to uphold the fabric of their civilization, even as the very hands they trust are unweaving it thread by thread. But Germany isn't the only story now, is it? The same melody has played throughout history, different instruments, same tune. Let's take the Soviet farmer, desperate for land reform, gives his loyalty to a system that will later take his land and leave him starving. The Chinese intellectual, dreaming of a fairer society, kneels before a revolution that will devour him for thinking too much. The Venezuelan worker, weary of corruption, cheers for a leader who promises justice but delivers ruin. You see, authoritarianism rarely marches in with a snarl. It smiles, it jokes, it reassures, it promises solutions. It presents itself as a logical choice, the only choice. And the well-meaning among us, well, they welcome it. They're convinced that their ideals, justice, order, security, are finally within reach. They don't realize until it's too late that they have bartered their freedom for chains. The founding fathers, how many times did they say this? And in how many different ways? And how many of us can quote those? Maybe the cruelest irony of all is that when the truth becomes too evident to ignore, when the atrocities mount, when the brainwashing holds fast, the well-meaning become the defenders then of their own undoing because they're too proud. They're too frightened, too invested now to admit that they could have been wrong. So they double down, they justify, and they say, it wasn't supposed to be this way, but, well, what choice do we have now? And that's how the descent completes itself. Not with a single moment of surrender, but with 1,000 small nods of agreement. Not with an iron fist crashing down overnight, but with a slow, suffocating embrace. But let's not be naive. Some really don't march blindly into that abyss. Some people see exactly what is happening, as it is happening, but they welcome it. For them, authoritarianism isn't a tragic accident, but a golden opportunity. They're the ones who hear the rhetoric of exclusion and smile, because it ensures that power remains in hands that look like theirs. I'm talking about that 1% now, aren't I? They watch as the walls close in around the weak